Hello and welcome to the Young Developers Podcast presented to you by me, Yusuf Ismail, and the co-producer.
اسمعني رابشك.
So a bit about us and why we decided to start the Young Developers Podcast. So I'll explain about a bit myself, and then I'll swiftly move on to Ismail where he can talk about himself. So my name is Yusuf Ismail, as I stated previously, and I am half Pakistani, half Jordanian, and I have lived in Saudi Arabia and the UK and some other parts of the Middle East for partially around a year or so. So I was brought up in Saudi Arabia between the periods of 2007 to 2018 when I came to United Kingdom. And during my tenure in Saudi Arabia, I studied in homes. I was homeschooled for a couple of years, and I also studied in a British school and an American school. In my brief tenure in the British school, I was taught by some teachers. I can't remember; it was a long time ago. But what I can remember is that I knew some people there were from the United Kingdom. But then I learned about a bit about Pakistan, and we had a Pakistani competition to draw a flag. But that's the best. That's all I can remember because I was around 5 years old at that time, and you don't really remember much during when you're young. I did not tell you how old I am. I'm 18, so that was the best part of 13 years ago, something like that. And then I swiftly moved on to a school called Kingdom School. And Kingdom School, I stayed on there for 1 or 2 years, and that's where I started to really meet people from different backgrounds. So I used to have a friend from Somalia. I used to know a Saudi prince, and I used to know a lot of Saudis because our school was very Saudi. A lot of Saudi citizens in our school, but you still had the odd person or from Saudi. So I used to know Jordanian and I used to know Somalian. And then after that, between the period of year one to year two, I then moved to Khubar because of my dad's job situation. And I was homeschooled for 2 years. The reason for me being homeschooled is because when I arrived in Khubar, I arrived after the period of registration for schools. So there was a lot of struggle in getting a place for me to go to school there, and that's actually where I met Ismail. Ismail's father is actually one of my father's friends, and they met at university. But I met Ismail in Khobar, and how we met was actually an interesting story. We met on the basically we went to quad biking one time, and that's where I met Ismail, I think, and interesting story about that quad biking. I ended up in an accident where I was the first time I rode a quad, and you have to understand in Saudi Arabia, it's a bit weird because
Laws,
they have
laws
no
don't exist.
restrictions. Say again.
Laws don't exist there when you're in the desert.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's just
There's
say
no
that.
rules, and there's no rules. So anybody can ride any quad. So in the UK, usually you have legislation for the large quads. So, but in the Saudi, they let a 10-year-old on a large quad, and they don't really care if you have any experience or not, and they don't even give you a helmet. So,
As long as you pay, it's fine.
in Arabic, in Arabic, say Bismillah wa ruh fi amanillah. And so I rode in that quad. I rode on that quad. In a quad bike, you understand, it's not like on a car. You don't have the pedals, but in a quad bike, it's like you're turning the handle, and that's how you accelerate and deaccelerate. And you press a button, so you end up getting blisters on your fingers, which really hurt.
Mm,
And so I pressed that button really hard, and I turned the handle very sharply, and my quad, I think, hit a rock or something, and it just spiraled in the air. And all I can remember is that I was in the air for the best part of 30 seconds, and then I landed on the ground, and I had bruises all over. And I think I injured my arm. I had loads of bruises on my chest, and I had to go back home. And I still remember Ismail dad's face when we told him we had to go home. It was a look of annoyance because we'd only been there for best part of like 20 minutes before
and
my accident. And the best thing about it, on the way there, someone scratched my dad's car, so I was in
and then
pain while
your dad was angry
my
about
dad.
it.
Oh yeah, do you remember?
I remember we were going round. Basically, when we got out, we were going round the turn, and this guy decided he couldn't wait, and he tried to go past, and then got annoyed. He got out of the car. He was like, "Whoa, what's this, man?" Like, you
Yeah.
know.
I was sitting there in agony, in pain, while my father attempted to resolve the dispute between him and a Saudi citizen who could clearly not drive. And then I got home. Went to a doctor. I ruined my sister's day because she was supposed to go to a birthday party, but due to my injuries, it never happened. And such is life. And that's most of the memories. And then later on, we still went quad biking because apparently you don't learn your lessons, and the only way to learn your lessons is just to move on and keep going on. And then we quad biking, and thankfully I never got injured again. And I used to go with Ismail for the best part of the year, where then he left, I think, and went somewhere else, and he can talk to you about that now. And you can explain to yourself about yourself now, and then after that, I'll give a bit more history about myself after what happened after I left Khubar.
All right, so I think I'll just start with the quad biking because I mean you've already started on that, so like going back and forth is gonna be a bit annoying. Yeah, so every Friday we started at Fajr time, and then afterwards we used to go after like Jummah. We used to go all the way to like the outskirts of Khobar. It was just like desert and road. And then you'd take this little sketchy turn, and then you'd go to the right, and there's just cement on desert, right? And then it goes and it breaks off into like a fork of different people with quad bikes. So you just
Oh,
used to,
do you remember? Do you remember that tree in that car where it used to pass those that?
yeah.
Yeah.
They're basically all the helmets were in a box inside the house, and all the quad bikes were laid out. And if you ask, you just get the price of it, and you just go. Literally, I think maybe it was like twice our size, was it? I mean, we took
Yeah.
like the big ones. Everyone took the big ones because the small ones, I mean, you can't really do much with it in the desert, right? So we all got the big ones. And yeah, every Friday it was basically dune surfing. Which was actually I think we did it for more than a year. I remember I was in Saudi for 3 years, from when I was 9 to nearly maybe a bit after I was 11. So, like Yusuf, I was born here, raised here for like first part of my life. I was in Egypt for a bit, I was in Morocco for a bit, but more or less I grew up here in England.
Uh, Sorry to intervene. I wasn't born here. I was born in Jordan, actually.
Oh, fair, fair, okay. So I was
I
born
was
here
born
and
in
then.
Jordan, and then I moved to Saudi Arabia. So between the periods of 2006 and 2007, I spent in Jordan, and then I moved to Saudi Arabia.
Mhm. I was born here and then went to Morocco for a year and then came back to make sure Arabic I got it before I came back. Um, so interesting fact is, although I speak good English, Arabic is apparently my first language. So
So you're bilingual, innit?
bilingual to an extent. But yeah,
I'm bilingual as well, but my Arabic is a bit crusty as I came to this country. Uh, I did learn Arabic in my school, which was called Kingdom School. But as you come to this country, you speak a lot of English, so your Arabic just becomes very ancient and dies down eventually. But you have to just keep up with it.
I did GCSE Spanish when I was in Chobham, which is where I went for secondary. So I can say I can speak Spanish a bit, but to be honest, that is a very stretched term because if some Spanish guy came to me and started speaking, I probably would have understand like just enough to get by. So we'll see. I don't know. But yeah, so
Interesting.
spent primary up to year 3 here, went to Saudi Arabia. But when I went to Saudi Arabia, I actually spent like Yusuf, I came at the time where applications were closed. So I spent like the first 3 months, I think it was February to all the way to June of my year, quite literally just chilling. I wasn't doing any work, I was like playing. And then I went to holiday, but I was also taking exams for international school. So I went ISG. First, I went an American school inside the campus, and then I was transferred to the British school inside the campus. So I experienced both sides. American school was a bit interesting. I mean,
What would
book
you say?
reporter, I think.
What would you say is most interesting about the difference between an American school and the British school, which you experienced at the time when you were at that campus?
I'd say American school was more relaxed. British school, I mean, especially in an international school, you've got obviously the obviously it's primary, right? But with a British school, you have a more sense of like order and strictness compared to an American school where, okay, yeah, we were sitting down and learning, but we were generally allowed to go and roam the library and do our book report, for example, or just, like it was a year, they are a year behind. So they're learning stuff that in a British school you would learn the previous year. So obviously it's more relaxed than American school, but you do get to the same level when you get to 18, more or less. So yeah, I'd say though British school, there was a lot more opportunities. I don't know if that's because British school was bigger, but there was basically a sport every week. There was a club every week other than sports. So that was a very rich experience compared to the American school, which was more like laid back.
Uh,
Um, yeah.
I did go to American school actually, as I mentioned previously, and our school was called. It wasn't really an American school. You could say it's more of a Saudi school that implements American curriculum. It's called Kingdom School, and it's based in Riyadh. It was owned by Prince Walid bin Talal, and then it was owned. I don't know what happened later on. Actually did year 5 and year 6 in that American school. During my tenure, I actually reunited with one of my old friends. But then I made friends with an American guy called Abdul Karim and a Saudi friend called Abdul Gahtani. Unfortunately, I lost all contact with them. I used to use an app called House Party, but
Oh, I remember
the
that.
phone numbers just yeah, the app just got discontinued, and the phone numbers just disappeared, and such is life. But what I can remember is first time I experienced hospitality by the Saudi people. So I used to be invited to their houses. They used to give me qahwa, chai, food. And actually, one of them was willing to send his driver to pick me up. But my dad refused because my dad's big on safety. And so because he didn't know the people, he couldn't really trust them. So, and yeah, kudos to that. And then I also knew this American brother. I went to his house as well, and he's gone back to America. He was a very nice person. Me and Abdul Karim and Abdul Kahtan used to hang at his house. We used to have food, watch horror movies. But unfortunately, due to my dad's restrictions, I had to go home early. I don't know if you'd consider 11 o'clock at night early, but like that's up to you. I used to have interesting discussions with Abdul Karim's dad, involving different things in life. There was also some other Saudi friends I knew. Their names have just gone out of my brain because it's been such a long time. And there was the teachers in that school were quite interesting. So my mathematics teacher was a Jordanian, and the way he liked to treat his class was the people who are smart go in one section, and the people who are not as intellectually available or just lazy go in the other section. And he would just scream at them and just try to get something through their head. And the people who are smart, they would just get on with the maths. And the quite interesting bit is when I came to the United Kingdom in 2018. When they were teaching math, I actually knew what they would actually knew a lot of the year 7 content because I was taught that in year 6, which I seem to find a bit bizarre because there's this stereotype that Saudi education is not the best, whereas I would disagree and say that it's not the best in terms of the English side, but it's actually quite good in terms of mathematical side if you have a good math teacher, because math is a universal language. So if you have a good math teacher, it shouldn't really matter. So that stereotype is a stereotype is a bit generalized. It should be just on specific things. And I believe the Saudi education system has now improved and not it's not as bad as it was before because there's always improvements. So yeah, and then after that Saudi school, I came to the United Kingdom in 2018. Obviously, the whole story behind Saudi, I might explore further on the other stories because I did a lot, and it's too much to explain in one episode. And
Yeah.
then when I came to the United Kingdom in 2018, I actually came, I'd say, in time for the applications, but I didn't get in initially into my high school, which I did my GCSEs in. And the interesting story is that because the high school I went to is a school part of the Scott Star Academies Trust, they have the best part of 30 schools. It's run by a person called Hamid Patel, and they Mufti Hamid Patel, and they do all this. They have all these schools, and it actually started in Blackburn. I might do a history about our school future episodes later on. It's quite interesting, and only reason I got into my high school is because my dad actually appealed.
Oh,
Because the excuse is we didn't have enough people in the classroom. I mean, we are too overpopulated in the classroom. But when I got into school, and I just had a look, my first thought was that's an absolute load of rubbish because you can always add a desk. So I don't know why there was no space because in some classrooms are not as packed, so you could always just add one seat. Or to be honest, I can't just say it's an absolute lie. It could be due to health and safety and cause
I mean, I
or
think like if you take a classroom, right, you could fill it with 100 people if you were determined enough, right? But I think like a good classroom size is probably, I mean, the usual classroom size in a state school is around what, 20 to 30. So a good classroom size would be on maybe 20 to 30. Like anything above would be a bit too much. When I came into, so I currently go to Newham Collegiate Sixth Form. When I first came into further maths, we had 40 or 50 people in the class, which was mental. Uh,
40.
40, yes, because they
Wow.
decided to take on 120 further maths people, I think. Obviously, the rooms were bigger, but having such a big class makes it more like a lecture than a class. So it was quite interesting experience, I'd say. But yeah, 20 to 30 students. To be honest, 15 students is a good bunch. 10 to 15 is going to be where you get the most out of it. So I hear the point. I think it makes sense, but it depends.
To add to your point, I would say that if you manage to manage how many the safety of students and when they're going up on corridors or only being just like a free for all, then you can always have more students. I mean, like you have schools in Africa with 150 students in one class, so why can it be so difficult?
Well,
I mean,
yeah.
we don't want to go to that extreme, but because you want to make sure that the teacher can get to every student in that 1 hour. But you can always add a desk if you and also bear in mind that safety is a big issue, so we don't want to just neglect the safety fact. If you know what I mean.
After all, in
Uh,
United
yeah,
Kingdom, safety is a regulation.
that is true. But I did eventually have a discussion with the guy whose father was in charge of the appeals, and he explained to me the whole process. So the idea of the process is I go through this person and he distinguishes whether the person is speaking is telling the truth or making sure that's a valid reason and why you should get and etc. Okay, so because for example the sixth form I attend, which is called Torpedo Boys sixth form, you can search up. You'll never know where I live because I don't live in that city. Uh, uh, that sixth form, the sixth form is part of the high school, and that high school actually gets around 700, I'd say 500 applications for 100 places because it's a top high school. The girls equivalent of the high school actually number one in England for a result in GCSEs. And so they have to have a process of narrowing it down, and so they can't really have 100 say only 100 people again. You can't have an extra 300 people appealing, and you can't just let everyone in because then that's obviously a safety concern, and it's just nigh to impossible to get too many people, all those people into the building when the building's almost reached max capacity because they've introduced a sixth form. So yeah, that's the story. I then did my tenure between year 7 to year 11 into the high school. One day might just explore the whole ethos behind that high school, and because my first couple of years I was actually bullied, and then my dad had to get involved. Then and then I had to get in SLT. SLT is basically the senior staff in that school. They basically had to stop the issues. There was two teachers who I'm very indebted to. One of them is Maulana Ikram, and the other one is Mr. Matador. I was able to sit with them, and basically I was actually on the point of leaving, but Mr. Matador, he actually convinced me to stay, and then he dealt with the issue. He gave them people detentions, exclusions, etc. He basically tried to basically he spread the message of that bullying is unacceptable, and some of the people who bullied me, one of them actually I heard ended up in jail.
Okay.
So that's my mad story. It's just
I used to actually go rugby before I went Chobham, which was a boys only school, and that was a very interesting case because there was like fights quite a lot. And one week, this guy decided, actually, I want to fight this guy. I want to fight Ismail. But we stopped it before it happened. So, it was good. All I had to say
he
was,
wanted to fight.
huh?
He wanted to fight you.
He wanted, yeah, no, he literally, he grabbed me, he was about to floor me, right? And then I just had to twist him a bit. And then as soon as he was floored, he was like, okay, I'm done. Assalamu alaikum. But honestly, that school has, because it was a boys only school, I'm assuming, it was like, it's a thing. Fighting.
Yeah, and that school did have a fighting issue, and so as I was leaving that school, the school became more like a systematic military style school esque, where if you had not allowed to talk while going up and down the corridors. You had to have your lanyards on. There you had to take your pencil case. They give you all pencil cases that you had to use. Putting your head on desks resulted in after school speaking when the teacher's not telling you after school. Further consequences, no longer only one warning, and they've absolutely removed the system of a demerit. What demerit is, say you have a slate, it's like if demerit is like a -1 point and a merit is 1 point, so they actually just got rid of the minus point, and the system is one warning, and then yeah, you're on after school, so they're just cracking on everything. There was a lot of restaff, so a lot of the senior staff left, so Mr. Matador left because the workload just got too much. Molnar Ikram got ill. Um, my the head of math, he left after I left. My math teacher left, went to another school. I actually had three English teachers in the space of 1 year during my important year, my GCSE. So there was a lot of instability there, but I managed to get through it, and yeah, that's about it. So I managed to overcome the bullying. There was still that whisper of bullying, but managed to just ignore it. I actually managed to make loads of friends who I still speak to, some of them to this day. One of them is actually a Turk. Another one is I made Indians. So one of them is an Arab. Some of them I know a British guy. I think, anyways.
British, are we not
Uh,
all British?
we're all British. Yeah, I'm British. Yes, we're all British.
He's an English guy.
So English guy. I don't. The thing is, I went to boys' school and there wasn't many English people there. I did meet one, but he left before me. I think 2 years ago. So
It's
he
quite
left
interesting.
before I could really could get to know him, and because in where I live, it's mainly where the school was mainly Asians. So Asians, Arabs, a mix of both, if you get what I mean. And then I was part of the prefect team, so I do have that leadership skill within me. Uh, then COVID happened, and I would say that's a story for another day. I might explore later on. But that COVID period is when I changed from a person with not many skills, so a person with a lot of skills and the ability to learn by themselves. And the story behind why I actually started learning how to program is quite an interesting story because I will just touch on it a bit for now, and then I'll pass on to Ismail. Is initially during the period before COVID, 2019, I started learning hypertext markup language, also known as HTML, and that was mainly due to my father because he wanted to incorporate me and make me very technology orientated, and so I started learning via LinkedIn Learning HTML, and I did not know anything about programming. And this is bearing in mind I did not do computer science in my GCSEs, and the only computer science they told you in year 78 was binary 101111. Yeah, and so didn't really explore the idea of the whole idea behind programming. They only explored the theory bit. So I started learning via LinkedIn Learning because my dad got it for free because he worked at the college at the time. And then I learned HTML. I made a Porsche website and I used an application known as Dreamweaver. Some of you might know about it if you're technically orientated, but that application has now been deprecated by Adobe. And it was a nice application because it was very beginner friendly because they had many templates and you could just move around stuff, get to know it, and you could get a free trial. So it was nice to use. And then after that, after HTML, I moved on to trying to make my own website. So I have my own website. If you want to check out, it's real realrealyusufismail.github.io. And that website isn't actually the first time made my own website. I actually made my website like 3 or 4 times, made, scrapped, and made again. And so it's just my idea of every time I become better at something, I introduce a level of creativity in my website, so I'll break it down and make it again. And then I started learning Java. I got inspired from Minecraft mods. And then I'll just give a brief, just quick one word. I got banned from a Discord server as for Minecraft Discord server because I was being a prick, and so I was forced to learn how to do everything on my own in terms of Java modding, and so I had to learn how to do Java on my own, and then skip couple of years, and then we are now here. I'm a Minecraft mod developer with over 100,000 downloads. The CEO of a product called Revise Wizard, which I'm in talks with Star Academies of piloting, and I've done some Hacktoberfests. I've done 3 or 4 of them. I've got a certificate in completion of Java with LinkedIn Learning. I've done HTML courses. I've made a plethora of Discord bots.
Okay.
I've made my own. I've made a wrapper, which is a wrapper is basically when you take an API. An API is like how websites communicate and stuff like that, and this information. And deputy head boy at my sixth form. So passing on to Ismail.
Well done, well done. All right. Where do I start? That's a good question. So when I came back from Saudi, I actually rejoined my previous primary school. And I only had 3 months to sit the SATs. These are not the SATs for uni, these are the SATs in year 6, which were actually alright. So I literally just grinded CGP 3 months. Finished that off, but because I came in late, I came in February, I couldn't apply to secondary schools in time. So I got sort of pulled to Rokeby. Spent about a year and a half there. Over the year and a half, I'd say it was quite a beneficial experience because it was just me in that school. I knew no one, and everyone else was from the area. Rokeby was not in my area where I was living, and neither is the school I'm going now. But it was quite a nice experience because I basically had to build social network from ground up. I had to learn and adapt to secondary school education just from, coming from Saudi, then changing to, British primary and then changing to British secondary. So it was a pretty interesting journey. I think it taught me a lot. And in that first year, I actually didn't realize, but I was learning the whole of GCSE maths in 1 year because it was a math school. And I came to see that in the years that would come, I actually wouldn't need to do much because I practically covered most of the content, which I thought was quite cool. Yeah, and then the winter of year 8, I actually got an offer from school next to me called Chobham, in the area, so it was closer, and I thought that was really cool because actually I didn't think it was cool. That's not. I was actually confused because it's been a year and a half. I've been in this new school, and then I got told, oh well, you can come to Chobham Academy, which was your first choice. And then I ended up actually taking that offer. Went to Chobham Academy, met some of my friends from primary, which was actually quite nice. And then COVID hit, just as I'm starting to get people. And I didn't have a phone, and I didn't have socials, and I was basically, as soon as COVID hit, it was just me and whatever Saudi friends I had from before who I was still keeping in contact with. And I happened to also have Chinese and Spanish, which was quite an interesting mix. So I spent about 6 hours a day working 3 hours on my Chinese and the other 3 hours on everything else. Because Chinese was quite intensive. Um, but I found COVID to be a really nice period for me because that was a period when, uh, obviously being used to, adapting all the time and sometimes being by myself to do the work. Me in my room with my own little setup. I thought that was a really nice experience. I got to use my keyboard faster, which is awesome. It doesn't usually happen. And then yeah, basically that's the start of where I grew my work ethic. Apart from the fact that I used to do maths and English every weekend back when I was in Saudi. Um, and then when COVID got more developed and the schools actually started to adapt and start using Microsoft Teams, that was the golden age because I had a mechanical keyboard and everyone else had a phone keyboard. And whenever the teacher had asked a question, I would always have the answer seconds before anyone else would because I would type faster. And I thought that was really funny because apart from the fact that I was really excited to have contact again with people from my school and whatnot, and maybe take the mick a bit because of the fact that I actually have an advantage with a bigger keyboard. But I actually found it quite fun to, interact with the newer teachers, uh, answer the questions, get like something that's not just assignments, like not just a screen in front of me with assignments, right? But other than that, I mean, I spent my holidays playing Fortnite as any kid in year 8 was doing for some time at least. Oh, some phase. And then we came back and I had year 9, 10, 11 in person in school. I did take computer science at GCSE. I also took history. What else did I take? I took triple science, Spanish. I think everything else is the same. And I basically year 10 is where I basically became a productivity organization fanatic. Where I actually started my systems, where I started learning about science-backed learning, started making revision, productivity, automated systems. And I also managed to grow my network quite a bit there. Made a lot of friends because of my impression on Teams, COVID, and the few lessons before. Everyone in the school knew me, which was quite funny. But I made a lot of friends, which was quite nice. And I had a good time for those 3 years. There's three major schools in the London area for state called Brampton, NCS, and LAE. I got into LAE, I got into NCS, and I did get into Brampton. But Brampton, I got the invitation for the interview, but I didn't get it by mail. So when I went to their gate, they decided, actually, you're not on the list, and you will not come in. So I basically got stopped to the gate, literally, by the will of, it's like God stopped me at the gate, right? And said, no, you're not going to the school.
Thou shalt not enter the school.
Thou shalt not enter the school. And so I went back with my offers from NCS and LAE. I dropped LAE because NCS was better. And now I am a year 13 student in NCS after spending a year. I am doing maths, further maths, and physics. And so far it's been quite good. It's been quite a good experience learning again and adapting my systems for A levels, which was previously most of it worked for GCSEs, but obviously A levels are a totally different game. So yeah.
Unlike Ismail, I'm not as someone who really used to be as productive. I'm now slowly becoming productive because I learned my lesson last year. So now I've actually implemented a calendar using Apple Calendar, trying to timetable, kind of inspired by Ismail. Because last year I wasted a lot of time, and in life you shouldn't have any regrets. But if there was any regrets, I'd say maybe I should have actually asked Ismail for early advice. He did give me advice, and I really took it upon. And now you learn the hard way, I guess, because I got two B's and one C in my AS level exams, and what AS level exams is, they're capped at an A, and the school use them for predicted grades. And your predicted grades can change depending on what you get later on in your A level test. So I'm just hoping that I can just smash out this year's by just revising, being a revising addict, as you can say. I'm probably not as a revising addict because you have to just instill that revision thing into you. And if you weren't doing it previously, it's like a step by step. So maybe yesterday I didn't fully stick to my timetable, but today I introduced the idea of breakfast into my timetable. So I did my breakfast, and then I did my 2 hours of computer science, and then I did my hour of economics. We kind of got cut short because my father called me, but you have to listen to your father's commands, and they override all commands. And then I went to, and then now I did a bit of math, and now I have the podcast, which I'm doing right now as it's in my timetable. And then after this, I'll be doing another 2 hours of computer science because I have a test tomorrow, and I just need to be and there's some stuff I need to go over, and then
Luck with that one.
I'll be doing a bit of coding. Can you say again?
I say good luck with that one. Computer science test.
Thank you very. I need the luck, man. Computer science, whether my the creme of the creme, if you can see, I got a C in it. I also did another subject, psychology, but we'll not touch upon that. And psychology was quite an interesting subject when I did in the first year because there's this misconception when you really go into psychology. It's like people assume it's just a load of nonsense, and to a certain extent, there is a bit of validity to that, but you can't really say all subjects are nonsense because everyone has their opinion in it. So there's always a grain of truth for everything. Because in mathematics, you might say there's some stuff that why are you learning this stuff? But in psychology, there's interesting bits and non-interesting bits, and if someone likes this bit, then they like it. If someone's like this bit, they don't like it, and but you have no right to call something useless because it might be useful in other areas. So, a great example is I'm reading a book currently about the idea of money buying, and idea of how we as consumers value stuff and how we place values. So the book explores. It's called Priceless: The Myth of Fair Value, and it talks about a true story of the idea where McDonald's employee gave a woman a hot coffee, and the coffee did not have was a very hot, do not touch, and that's people wonder why they have that now.
Yeah.
It's all behind because of that lawsuit where the coffee spilled on the woman's lap because she put it down to try to open it and it spilled on her. She then sued them initially for a low amount of $100,000, but she had a great lawyer, so she took that up to a couple of million dollars. Very famous story, and that's why McDonald's have hot, do not touch. That's the whole idea behind it, and it looks at the psychological way of people thinking. So when you see an item, I'll just give you a short, brief story. So when you see an item, say you have like a perfume, like something like let's see a famous perfume company. I can't really think of anyone now. Yeah, say it.
Let's say Lynx. Lynx is it's a British.
Lynx a perfume company. When you go into a perfume shop and you see the price, say it says 50 quid for one perfume, 500 milliliters, no, actually 100 milliliters, with green scented flavoring for men. And you say that I said £50, and then that goes to your brain. So automatically, your brain now will value any other prices of goods that have the equivalent nature to that initial item. Because before, we're assuming that you did absolutely no research before you went to the perfume shop. You had no idea what a perfume bottle in that standard 100 milliliters with flavoring, fruit flavor should have. But now, say example, you go look, you have more, you're exploring more, and then you see a perfume with an exotic fruit flavor. Now, because it's an exotic fruit, it will be worth more than if it wasn't exotic. But then it'll say like £70, but you wonder why is it £30 cheaper? Because you as a consumer don't really have the basis of knowing what if let's say you don't know it's an exotic fruit, of knowing the actual true fair value of a good. So that's exposed the psychological thing, the psychological values. They also talk about memory and stuff. So psychology is important to to a certain extent. The biological side of it is not really for me because either I'm not really a science person, but for someone who's doing all three sciences, two sciences, and hoping to get into Cambridge, Oxford, or Manchester, UCLan, whatever, Lancaster University, they might see it as something very important because they want to become a doctor or a dentist or or eye person
I
or
think
whatever.
I think it's like psychology. I think its practical use would be marketing. But there are some uses of psychology, obviously in medicine and whatnot. Uh, it's a very important because I actually have no idea. But I do know that marketing, some basis of it is in psychology, which I think is quite interesting because you're basically learning the studies in those A levels that you could use in the future. But I think generally for A levels, it's you're learning the subject so that you can do it at uni, right? Some of it is going to be interesting, but maybe a lot of it is probably not going to be interesting to your general, like in general day-to-day life. You probably won't use most of what you learn, right? You probably use basic maths, English. Maybe you'll use the writing skills you learn and whatnot. But all in all, education is just for you to explore your interests, and the subjects are to explore those subjects so that you're ready for them in uni. Which I think is, obviously systems vary between country and country, but I think it's all right here. It's pretty decently done.
Uh, I agree with you on that because in economics you learn a lot because I do economics as well. I actually wanted to drop economics in favor of sociology and do the whole of the 2 years in 1 year, but the teacher who taught sociology refused, and she had the right to refuse because it's a lot of content and you can't really do 2 years of one A level in 1 year unless you have more time and doing math, economics, and computer science. Or even math, computer science, and sociology, if wanted to do in all of that in 1 year would have been impossible, in my opinion. Of the way I structure my time, and when I was applying to sixth form because when I got my GCSE grades, I was in Jordan at the time, so I got via email. I didn't know that sociology was a subject, and I got an option of either. I got the ultimatum of either do chemistry or psychology, and in my head, I didn't want to subjugate myself to more sciences and more complicated and more formulas and particles. That's what that goes just over my head. It's not really it's not really my thing, if you get what I mean. But psychology, I actually got advice from my dad, and I just said I'll do and I'll see how it goes. And my intended approach was I'm gonna drop you anyways because they force you to do four for some reason. Don't know why they do four
Same for me.
because it's just the whole idea of doing four is that you just end up focusing on three unless you want to
It's if
take all of them
Yeah,
seriously
it's if you're not
because
sure what you're gonna do.
yeah, but people are sure because if you do four, you're really just adding the extra level of pressure. But then
Yeah, I get you.
these 2 years are your most important years. People say
Exactly.
GCSEs are important. That's a
I
whole
mean,
load
it
of.
was important for us when we were doing it, but then when we got to A levels, we were like, oh, okay.
It's important to a certain extent. It's only important to get to your A levels, but once you've done your A levels, it's not. It's like nobody cares about your GCSEs. Once you've done university, nobody cares about your A levels. Once you get a job, nobody cares about university. It's such a way of life. You're just graft. Get a job. They don't mean anything anymore. But it's always a good way to get through the door. It basically, it's not didn't mean anything. They open the door for you. It's like if you do the A levels, they open many doors, and then you have a choice which door to go through, and then you go through that doors. Such as and that's why you should really just put the effort in in any areas of life, be it in work, job. Because if you're not putting the effort in in a job, for example, you're less likely to get promotion. But you've just grafted out maybe for the first 5 6 years. Bearing in mind, I've never had a job, so I can't really tell you, but still my basis from it from other experiences in life, you're more likely to get the promotion, and then once you get that promotion, you have less responsibility. I mean, you have more responsibility, but less workload because then you have other people doing that work for you. For you know what I mean, you
I
want to add to
think,
that?
yeah, I think apart from the promotion side of things, I think you'll feel better about yourself and you'll feel good if you push yourself to do your best effort than if you just waste the opportunity you have. You're not going to get that opportunity again. You might as well work hard now, rest later. Like, it's like the saying, work then play. I think that was the saying. What was it? Work hard. It was something of the sorts. But basically, if you put the work in, you'll reap the result, and it doesn't go the other way around, right? So that's a very important.
The quote is work hard, play hard.
Work hard, play hard. Yes, that's the one.
That's
Anyways,
You're absolutely correct. And then so I saw that sort of psychology. I'd say if I had the choice, I would have taken it a bit more seriously. But because I was a bit naive at the time, I didn't take it as seriously. And yeah, such is life. You just learn and move on. Shout out to my psychology teacher, by the way. She was a great teacher. Even though I didn't take the subject, even though I didn't take the subject seriously, she still tried to do her best to help me over, just cross the lines. Shout out to Miss Ali. Hopefully she's listening to this podcast.
all right then.
Say again?
I said, all right then.
Yeah, and then
How long have we
also
been
did
doing?
my
What is
45 minutes. We'll just go for an extra 5 minutes, yeah? That's what we
all right? Yeah.
did math and computer science. Computer science is quite interesting. I will talk about that later. And then I haven't really talked about I did mention my coding thing, but not really the whole image. So we might do that later on episode, and then we might do an episode on coding joined by Ismail, because I'm actually very coding oriented. So I do a lot of coding, unlike Ismail over here, who's more education oriented. He's more educated. His whole idea is that do computer science, go do a degree, follow the old ways. Whereas my idea is that why not do a degree and a job at the same time, which is a degree apprenticeship. Explore that later on in other episodes. So we both have a conflict in interest.
Conflicting
And yeah,
to an extent. I mean, me doing further maths means that maths is life for at least 2 years. So we'll see what gives. But I agree with the fact that Yusuf is very coding oriented, to the point that last year I was waking up at 6 a.m. to study, and I see him coding his rapper or something at 6 a.m. So very committed. And I think that obviously people do things different ways, but the end result is, dependent on what you put in and how you put in, but you can get to the same destination by taking a different path, right? So it all depends.
There's 100 ways to skin a cat, as you say.
I've never heard that one.
My old math teacher used to say that. I don't agree, don't skin a cat, but he used to always say that. Oh, he was a wise man. Still alive though.
Still alive, yeah. The cat alive though.
Yeah, the cat.
Cat's fine.
I actually don't skin cats.
I see. Yes, of course.
I might be cats, might be sheep. I don't know. Yeah, that's about it. All right, so 47 minutes podcast, which hopefully we'll do a next one next week. If you have any other feedback about how we should improve the podcast, this being our pilot episode, let us know. If you have any questions, let us know. If you have any episode opinions we should do next. Hopefully we're planning on doing episodes on technical, how we got into programming, A-level advice if you want, university advice, and a bit about life. So our political opinions and yada yada yada. This podcast is more like a free. Whatever comes to mind, we just talk about what we feel like, and yeah, that's about it. So hope you had a great time, and we're just gonna leave now and play a nasheed, which is an Islamic song, just to leave you just to transition out of the end of the podcast. See you next week, and goodbye. حصريا على يا هلا ويا هلا يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا حن قلبي على
جمعة الخير هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا. يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا. بالحب اجتمعنا وربنا يحييكم، بالحب اجتمعنا وربنا يحييكم، بالحب اجتمعنا وربنا يحييكم، بالحب اجتمعنا وربنا يحييكم. مرحبا ويا هلا فيكم، انتم منا واحنا فيكم، بالمحبة نحييكم. يا هلا ويا هلا، مرحبا ويا هلا فيكم، انتم منا واحنا فيكم، بالمحبة نحييكم. يا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا. يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، يا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا ويا هلا، حن قلبي على جمعة الخير هلا، حن قلبي